Thank you so much for joining us today for the webinar Adieu X-ray Chemicals. So simple is the transition. It is a great pleasure to introduce to you Tobias Bauer, whose aim during this presentation will be to explain what steps you need to consider regarding the transition from analog to digital and what added value thus arises for your practice. Tobias Bauer works in the dental industry for more than 20 years. Since 2003, he held various responsible positions at KaVo to develop software and digital solutions. As the product manager for digital workflow integration, he now combines the different development departments to create integrated system solutions. We would like to thank Mr. Bauer for being with us today and KaVo for making this lecture possible. Please take note of any questions and comments you have during the lecture, as they will be addressed by Mr. Bauer at the end of the presentation. Without any further delay, please help me welcome the expert himself, Tobias Bauer.
So thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I had the tone double, so hopefully you heard it just once. But so the introduction was very nice. There's another sound echo. Okay, now it's gone. Okay, I want to lead you in the next half hour to through the steps of how to go to digital and how you master the transition from analog film to digital imaging. The image you can see here on the left side is often claimed to be the wife of Dr. Röntgen, but actually it's a friend of him, Mr. Albert von Köllikers, who took the first X-ray of his fingers and then actually named the X-ray beam in German to Röntgenstrahlen, which is the German term for X-rays. So what do we see today is why digital and why right now? Because I think it's the right time for you to go to digital when you still have film units. Then we will discuss a little bit on the options, different IT setups, which one fits to you and which one you probably want to use depending on your needs. And there we have several steps that are going to be listed. So we first think of reverse engineering. So where do we go, where we want to go? And depending on the target, you can choose the right solution. The right IT partner, very important. And we have some aspects there. What you should avoid in terms of IT infrastructure. You preparing the office, depending on if you have already computers, if you already have network cables and so on. And a very important thing, don't forget your employees, don't forget your team, which has to execute, which has to work with the new system. Transition, and of course, an outview, what is now possible, what probably you hadn't had the chance to do before, and maybe also future steps. So why digital and why right now? So one of the key issues on digital imaging is the significant lower dose that you're applying to the patients. And I have just collected some studies. You see it here in the bottom line, pretty small, but I will just point out some because we have a little questionnaire at the end. And I will actually help you a little bit to mark out what are the important points for this questionnaire. So as you can see, PAN images, 70% less, CEF images. And the interesting thing is for intraoral, if you use an older D speed, it's 75% less. But what's often still in the literature wrong is, for example, for 3D, that when you compare CBCT technology to the CT technology, you can actually reach a dose reduction by 97%, which is enormous. And current CBCT devices really have a dose that is equal or lower than panoramic or even intraoral. The image optimization and the possibilities of digital imaging ease up your diagnosis because you can actually optimize the image depending on what you want to see. And even darker or lighter images can still result in a good diagnosis where you have a film just over or underexposed. Different measurement technologies in 2D, also in 3D, are more precise for endo and especially for implantology, where you can plan and calculate the right implant size. And of course, a fast access to the digital patient folder with all data. So you have a collection of everything on the PC, the whole history of images, and you don't need to dig them out, and you have them simultaneously in multiple locations. Here's some specialties. Multi-layer pan or DiagnoCam multi-layer pan is a technology to have 5 different layers of panoramic with one panoramic image. So you have a much wider focal trough, much wider sharp layer. And DiagnoCam is a tool by KaVo, offered by KaVo for caries diagnostics. And these tools are digital cameras or digital pan, and this is not available in X-ray film technology. So if you have the setup for a digital system with X-ray, you can easily extend the diagnostic functionality with, for example, camera and caries diagnostic. Last but not least, discussing the film, let's say intraoral small film or panoramic film with a patient is, it's not really state of the art and sometimes also cumbersome because the images are so small. So why now? Why right now? There are several things that happened during the last year, especially the last 2 years or 3 years. For example, the tablet computers. So mobile, high performance images display computers became available. And so it reduces the investment you need into IT infrastructure. The latest up-to-date Wi-Fi technology, means wireless transport of information, has so much high speed that even the high-resolution digital images can be displayed with mobile devices. So the need to create cabling to dig up the walls is really reduced. Then work-life balance, assessing data from home. This is everything that comes up more and more in modern offices. So once you are digital, there are possibilities that you can really take your patient files, take the data home, or remotely assess the data in a secure way. A bad part maybe to talk about, but film devices are currently no longer produced, or let's say only very few manufacturers produce them anymore. And spare parts of these parts are heavily to get because the devices maybe have been designed 20 years ago, and the electronic part, the electronic development is so fast that these boards, these special PCB boards that have been used in these old devices are hardly to get. So if you have a device that's running now and you say, okay, why do I need to digitize? Is once you get a problem with the device, you probably have problems to actually exchange an existing film with a new film, and then you need to do everything in a rush. So this is also a reason why you should think of converting right now. And of course, chemicals, prices for chemical disposal is going up because also the film, the photographer industry moves long time into digital, and therefore also all these services to dispose the chemicals are actually declining. And your office space. Chemicals and developer need space, and you probably have better things to do with this area in your office. So what are the different options we can offer? For example, a very base solution with a very low entrance cost is shown here. So you have just one computer, basically, and digital X-ray devices, and maybe an iPad to watch the images at the chair. The advantages for this solution is clear. It's less hardware, you have less cabling, and you don't need to change your workflow. The patient goes to the X-ray room, you take the images. If you use an imaging plate scanner, which is basically a developer for imaging plates that are very similar to film, then the process is nearly the same. And your images appear on the computer and on the iPad, and you can have look at them at the chair or at a monitor in the reception or in a room. Don't forget, and this is why I'm always putting this out, backup solution if you plan your IT, because one computer and all your data there, you need to really think of backing up, saving this information. What are the disadvantages of this kind of option? It's limited mainly to 2D, so it's panoramic, intraoral, but it's not prepared for upgrading to 3D technology if you think of a CBCT device or if you're going for implant planning. So this is really a very easy, very simple solution to start going digital, but it's not suitable if you really want to make it flexible. And one thing for most software and manufacturers, that having one computer to work on and to store the data on is often not suggested, but it's possible. So the second option, the typical solution in many offices, is what you see here, where you have a reception computer for the practice management. You have treatment rooms where you have also either one computer with a monitor or the same computer connected to two monitors to show images to the patient. Then there is an X-ray room with a panoramic device, probably also a computer there. And the digital scanner, let's say the developer for intraoral, can be placed anywhere, can be placed in the X-ray room, can be placed in the treatment room, or in between to serve multiple X-ray devices. Important here is that now we have also a real server, so a system to store your data, and this should be in a cabinet, should be in a facility room, because the server hardware, all your data is there, should not be accessible, and maybe it's also some noise coming out. So what are the advantages of this system? It's suitable for nearly all digital imaging systems you can buy on the market. It's very flexible. You can upgrade. You can also connect then carriers devices. You can also extend this with iPad or with tablet computers. So a combination of mobile and fixed stations is possible. Since all the connections are net wired, of course you can mix with wireless, but a wire network has also a higher reliability and speed. So the whole system is scalable. Disadvantages, not very much, but of course you need the best network cabling. So probably the office needs to be, there needs to come somebody and put some port sockets in the room. So it means the outlets, the sockets there where you connect the cables to. And you have a patient monitor maybe, but the patient monitor is controlled by the desk PC. So either you have a mouse at the chair, or you need to operate the PC behind the chair to actually show patient images. For the server, as I mentioned, a cabinet, a special room, or a noise-reduced box is recommended, because servers are more powerful, they have a good fan, and is often quite loud. The last but not least, the high-end solution, I'm just pointing out samples here, is something where it basically nearly the same as the typical solution, but now here we have a link to the dental unit. For example, the KaVo E80, E70 Vision dental units, they have now a touch screen at the chair directly at the dentist element, and you can select the X-ray images that you want to see on the patient monitor, the monitor that is connected here to the dental chair. You can select them directly from the dentist element. So there is no need to work in the background PC, no need to move away from the patient. Advantages here, of course, it's a perfect integration in your treatment. Let it be endo, where you probably need X-ray sensors that are very fast, or also the plate scanners. And you have all data that you can connect directly at the chair. You see the overview of old images, new images, without moving. disadvantages here, of course, the space requirements are a little bit higher. I mean, this is the extreme, like a Leica microscope connected and an X-ray unit connected to the same chair. But this can all be integrated then into this software solution, into the digital solution. And here, a high IT competence of your system provider is required. So which solution you prefer, it depends, of course, on you. So the base solution, probably you still need paper files. If you have just one computer, you can mix it up, but probably you are documenting the patient treatment still on paper and just want a digital system for the diagnosis and to be up to date. The typical solution, you can work paper-free if you have practice management systems, if you have, for example, a time scheduling software, so you don't need a scheduling book anymore. You can integrate the patient. Doesn't mean that you integrate the patient into the system, but you can communicate to the patient better and also explain him better, and you can also give him data, this digital data that he can take home. And the whole system is already prepared to be flexibly upgraded to 3D diagnostics, to carriers diagnostics, and so on. And of course, the high-end solution where everything is already integrated, where the focus is on patient communication, direct access to the data from the chair. So there's really an interaction between you and the patient. The treatment documentation is much easier. And I put here specialty endo to it, because if you have, for example, an X-ray device at the chair and digital sensors, doing a file, an endo treatment, you can easily and simply control the treatment itself using a short X-ray with the sensor, because the image is there instantaneously, below 1 second. The typical solution you should remember, by the way. Okay, so what are the steps that you're going through? The reverse engineering, I call it. You need to think of what are your goals. So I weighted this here into base, typical, high end. So going away from chemicals, of course, is able for every of the setups. You will remove them. Technical upgrade of the office. So you are up to date with the digital information, with the digital imaging. X-rays available everywhere. This is also suitable for all these solutions. With iPad, with a computer, you can assess these X-rays. And you can easily exchange data with colleagues, of course, because you can send them with either secure sending systems or CDs or USB data without giving the data out of your hand. But when it comes to more expectations like X-ray in treatment rooms, you cannot use an iPad to take an X-ray in the treatment unit, so you need a computer there. So then it goes into the typical situation. When you want to extend your implant therapy, your implant placement system, you have to think then of maybe you go for CBCT later. And then, of course, the whole IT, the whole system should be prepared to allow this. And the minimum solution there is not enough for 3D. And of course, if you want to integrate new diagnostic methods, like I discussed, DiagnoCam with carriers detection or other devices that are USB or digital, they cannot typically be connected to a mobile device. So there you probably need a computer in the treatment room. And as said before, multimedia patient consulting, talking to the patient, showing him videos, explanation information, then we are more in the high end. This does not mean that you need to have this, super dental chair, but 2 monitors and some control, this would be very helpful. Last but not least, access to the data from the treatment unit, so you really can assess everything right at the dental chair, at your position. This is really the high-end solution. So When you know now what kind of solution you prefer and where you want to go, then the question is, who is the right IT partner, the infrastructure and the software and PC hardware partner for you? So all the digital solutions, X-ray imaging, carrier diagnostics, they need software. And software always has requirements to the hardware. And it's important that the partner you choose has training and knows about the systems in your office or generally in dentistry that you may use now or maybe use in future. And general IT companies that can sell you hardware, that can even go to you and install the network, set up all the monitors, they often do not have the specific trainings on this dental software. And then there can be some errors I will point out later. So it's very important that you have a combination of somebody who really knows about Windows, about networking, but also has experience in the dental field with the different suppliers of hardware and different systems that are available. And he can really know what kind of hardware is needed and maybe also your future needs. So assuming what is coming next. And this is why we actually, and I also suggest that you connect your dental dealer, and he either has his own IT team or he's connected to an IT solution partner that they work together, and so they can really find the right IT solution for you for the new version. We, for example, have a certified partner program to certify dental dealers that they come every year for training and know about updated systems and know about the system configurations. And this is very important that you consult your dealer before you actually buy the hardware, because you need to check if this is suitable. Here are some errors that can be made. I say errors, but maybe it's just something you should avoid, not to have some trouble in the past and in the future when you have it. So what can go wrong is, for example, there's a solution called terminal server. There's one computer, powerful computer, and then you have several PCs, or smaller, it's not even a PC, it's like a little box, like Apple TV, that in the rooms where you can work on, and let's say Word or the Office programs, they work very nicely with these programs, with these systems. But specifically dental applications, they have the problems. So there are only a few computer software in dentistry that really support this terminal server solutions. If you have, for example, the caries detection device or a digital sensor, you probably cannot connect this to these little boxes. And if you want to go for 3D later, then the boxes are probably not powerful enough to display the data, and the whole setup is not fitting. What we also see often is that somebody wants to avoid buying a Windows server. So they are Linux or so-called NAS, Network Assessed Storage servers. Very powerful, very nice, but most of the software that is available in dentistry does not support it. So the databases only run on real Windows, and the data access in Linux, for example, is an unofficial rebuild of what Windows provides, and there are some functionality missing that can cause trouble. Let's see, there's a sun going here. What we also often see is that Apple computers, they are trendy, they look cool, they are really nice, and there you can choose. You can run an Apple computer, no problem, if you install Windows on it. But if you use Mac OS, you really reduce the amount of different softwares and products you can use, because only a few dental programs are made and suitable for Apple OS. And then you limit your possibilities. Also, the amount of manufacturers you can choose for the different digital systems is quite limited then. So Apple computers are fine, but not with the Mac OS and the Windows emulation called Parallels. Apple computers should really run on normal Windows, and you should also have a real Windows server for the data. Preparing the office. So here are some questions you can answer for yourself. Do I want to have network cables? Is it possible? Because there's a star wiring, so there must be some central area where you put also the servers to it. If you say this is not possible, then you can choose a very fast Wi-Fi today. But you should go with your IT service provider and check the office where you probably need so-called repeaters to enhance the signal that you have really good connection everywhere. Space in the furnitures you need to plan, and it's not only the space but also the airflow. So mini PCs are not extendable later, and if you really lock them in, they tend to get very hot. I see wireless mouse and keyboards often, but then the battery is gone exactly when you use it. So actually, personally, I don't like them. But they are, for example, all-in-one monitor available. So it's a PC inside a monitor. These are very good, usable, but you need to check the noise level, because the PC, sometimes they have a fan, and if it's in your operating room, in a treatment room, and the PC is not in a cupboard, then probably it's too loud. Then some questions on your extension, intraoral X-ray with a sensor at the chair. Think of the distance. A USB plug connection should be in 1.5 meter reach. So there are cables, extending cables that can be placed. And if you want to show images to the patient, think of the monitor position. If it's behind the patient, maybe it's not comfortable, you can put it on the wall, or you can use an iPad. Don't forget your team. We're to the end now. It's new things make people feel uncomfortable. That is normal, right? So there should be no patience during the training time, because when the training happens, everybody should be really concentrated on the new things, on how to operate the new devices. And maybe even after the official training, they want to train on themselves. And take your time to really train all employees, and not in a hurry, not taking just 1 hour to say, okay, this is a new device, how is it operated? Because then people feel uncomfortable, and it's really not the feeling they want to have. Very important in my eyes is that you arrange a second training 6-8 weeks after the first one, to go through the workflow that has been established, optimize it, answer questions, and have a review of what is not going on in the office. Very helpful. Sometimes, or often I see this, is that you write the important things like how to open a patient, how to start the software, how to prepare for acquisition, that you note this on a piece of paper. You can laminate it, so put it in a box and either hang it to the PC or put it near to it, so your team can easily assess them, look at it, and feels comfortable use the new system. Prepare in advance and stay up to date. So if your IT system is set up, please ask them to make it easy to monitor if everything is okay. Because you have a backup, you have antivirus protection, there are a lot of things coming, and there are systems that make this very easy. It's a daily email or a document popping up on a main computer that shows you today everything is fine, or a monthly check. All the team members or multiple team members should know about this procedures, and please put a yearly maintenance or checkup with the dental dealer on, or with the IT team, to the computers and to the system, because we We have found sometimes dust in housings that have been in the computer for years. The fans were not running anymore, and then the system went down, and it was a very simple failure. We are near to the end now, the transition. What happens to your developer? Well, the panoramic device, I don't think that you will keep the film panoramic parallel. Often it's a space, but the intraoral developer can be kept for some time. So I recommend 1 to 2 months after the switch to have the developer still available. So if something happens, if something is wrong with the IT infrastructure, you can still do intraoral. What happens to your films? You can digitize them. There are services. It's really not worth doing it on your own. The scanners are quite expensive to really do it right. So I picked up just from the internet one of these services that is actually providing you DICOM data in the end. So images including patient information. And what happens sometimes is that you have the new system and the image doesn't look as good as you expected. So this can be a typical positioning error, because digital does not mean the image is always sharper or better than before with the film. Digital just means it's a new system, it's a digital system, and you have much more possibilities to optimize these images. So if you think the image doesn't look good in terms of too bright, too dark, not sharp enough, their software can do a lot. So talk to your dealer, talk to your specialist, and align the images, maybe in the date of 6 weeks after the first installation. Then the software can be optimized and to show your image always in the right way. As I call it, out of space, what you can do now. What happened is now you have a digital system. Now you can improve your patient communication. The programs can print, report, can print the X-ray images, so you can have a more flexible and deeper connection to your patient to give him out your plan, including the diagnostic information, so he feels maybe more confident. You can work from home. I mentioned this in the beginning. There are possibilities that you can log on with your laptop from at home into the office in a secure way, or you can remotely control a computer. Also, this is a secure and a very often used way to remotely work. Actually, KaVo will introduce cloud services end of 2016 with some features like external backup, communication with your colleagues, and remote access and synchronization of different office positions, or let's say different offices. And what I mentioned here, exchange data with colleagues, this becomes more and more used. You have specialists for certain items, you can exchange the data with them. I found a small service like DocCopy, which is a secure copy between copied medical data, and also in future the KaVo Cloud will allow you to do this. Don't forget to pay attention to use servers in the EU, not America, as we have this safe harbor system that is currently under surveillance, and so everybody is recommended really to use servers in the EU for this. So I hope I was able to help you a little bit, to give you an idea how to digitize, how easy it is, and what kind of things you probably need to consider when you go for the new system. Thank you very much, and I hand over to the questions that probably come up. To the left, let's say I see to the left, we also have some links to share. So information, for example, our phosphoplate or PSP scanner, the imaging plate scanner, the KaVo ScanXM1, also the Genix GXPS 500. These are scanners you can buy from your dental dealers that exchange the film, the intraoral film, to a digital system. Then we have, for example, also PanExam or the Genix GXP 300. These are basic digital panoramic devices very easy to operate, very high quality, and these are really recommended as a pair for the digitization. Then, as I mentioned, PC requirements might be helpful to know, or if you have an IT provider or your dealer, they can assess these information from every manufacturer. We have them online to see what kind of computers are suitable for the system. And last but not least, we have also demo DVDs for the images that you can see how the quality is, what the software looks like. And of course, you can contact your local dealer or the KaVo representative to get more information. Thank you very much. No questions right now? Then I think we can stop here, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bauer, for sharing your lecture and your insightful information with us. We would also like to thank KaVo for making this online course possible, and thank you, our wonderful audience, for your interest and participation. The CE quiz is now available online on the course page, and completing it will allow you to earn your ADA CERB CE credits. The recording will be posted online within the next 48 hours. You will receive an email notification with a link to the recording. Further questions for Tobias Bauer may be submitted directly on the website on the courses page under the Ask the Expert tab. So please go ahead and submit your questions, and Mr. Bauer will be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. Please be sure to visit the KaVo educational platform www.kavoacademy.de and keep an eye out for our growing schedule of online courses. Thank you again to all. Take care and goodbye.